My brother and I, aged 5 and 7, knew that if we went to visit my grandfather in his office at work, we would get a lucky packet. In those days, those lucky packets were real, with those little pink sweets, and a proper toy that kept you amused for years. My grandfather was a general manager at a furniture store, Bears, in Ladysmith. And as grandkids, we thought that he kept his lucky packets there just for us. But as I grew older, I learned that my grandfather was an astute businessman, and he had a whole box of these lucky packets behind his chair. But whenever a customer walked into the shop with kids, he'd hand them each a lucky packet so that he could win them over and sell them a lounge suite. William Francis Walsh, or Bill, was born in 1924, 15 years before the Second World War. And when he was 15 years old, World War II broke out. He went up to his dad and he said, "Dad, I'm going up to Joburg with my older brother John, and I'm going to enlist in the army and we're going to fight against Nazi Germany." And his father looked at him amused and said, "You're only 15 years old. They won't allow you to enlist." But he never listened to his father, and this must have been a gene that he passed down to my mother, to me, and to my daughter. Because all of us seem to have very selective hearing when it comes to taking instructions from our parents. Bill caught the train from Newcastle to Johannesburg, and he stood in the queue until he got to the front of the queue. And the officer said to him, "You look a bit young there. How old are you?" He stood up straight, he puffed his chest out, and he said, "I'm 16 years old, so old enough to join the Air Force." In 1939, race policies saw the army short of volunteers. So they never questioned him after that, and they assigned him to the Air Force. But not as a pilot, as a bomber or a bombardier. In the B-52s, behind the pilots in a compartment underneath the aeroplane was where the bomber sat. And when given the signal, he would release the 81 half-a-ton bombs on the enemy soil below him. Bill told me of many a harrowing time in the air, with massive bullets whizzing past him, sometimes even killing his very own flight crew. But he was always spared. On one occasion, he was called back from a mission to perform some other chores, later to find out that that flight never returned to base. Bill finished the army unscathed, except for a mild case of shell shock, which was largely successfully treated, save for a few nervous twitches in his arms and legs that he had for the rest of his life. Some will say that Bill's heroic feature that he gained was negated by the fact that he left his wife of 25 years and their 5 children. But I'm sure that he did this for his own good reasons, and I'm sure that they've both made peace with it. And overall, this makes us understand that he was also only human. He dedicated a lot of his time to his children. They were always invited to sleep over. He always took them to and supported them at their school functions, sports functions. But Bill has been a pillar of strength for us in our family. And his 5 daughters, 1 son, 14 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren, I think we all inherited the fertility gene from him as well. Will attest to the fact that he still is always civil to his ex-wife, my gran. In fact, a few months ago, 40 years after they divorced, coincidentally wound up in the same hospital. And Bill walked past her room to find out how she was doing and said, "Hi Thelma, how are you getting along?" To which she said, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" And he replied, "Yes, Thelma, it's Bill. We were married for 25 years. We had 5 children together, for heaven's sake." Bill often used to tell us of the amusing story when he took my gran out for her 35th birthday, and he said to her, "Honey, what would you like for your birthday? Would you like a new car? Would you like a coat? Would you like a diamond bracelet?" And she said, "Bill, I want a divorce." And he said to her, whoa, I wasn't planning on spending that much. Bill, with his upbeat nature and kind attitude, has shown us that even when we fall on hard times, by being positive about the situation, we can fool even ourselves into thinking that things actually aren't that bad.